Hi, my name is Shinko. Welcome to my channel. We have been reading The Warriors Into the Wild. We are finishing chapter 14. I'm going to try and finish 15. I apologize that my last video, the comments were disabled. That is never my intention in my videos to disable comments. YouTube flags videos labeled for kids. They will automatically turn the comments off. But there's a small section in the terms and services where they will remove the ability to comment on videos that have sensitive subject or sensitive. It's just something that YouTube labeled sensitive or just, I don't know. But in the beginning of my last video, I had my cat, Alex, in a vet cone and was explaining a thing. And I guess YouTube can't handle a cat in a cone? I guess that's sensitive. Okay. Learned my lesson. I apologize about that. A big reason that is an issue for my comments to be disabled on these types of videos is because to keep my videos of reading legal, it's not just, it can't be content of me just reading. I have to include discussion. I have to include the ability to include my audience in this, and not having the ability to comment on my videos really hinders that, legally speaking. So I apologize, learn my lesson. Let's get to it. We left off where Firepaw, Tiger Claw, and Blue Star went into Mother Mouth, this cave, and it looks like Tiger Claw ran away in fear. When the moonlight came shining through the roof of the cave and it hit the stone, and that is how the stone glows. So the moonlight hit, the light was very bright to the cats. Tiger Claw ran away in fear. So it's just Blue Star and Firepaw here with the stone, the moonstone. Firepaw? Blue Star's voice was calm and quiet. "I'm still here," he answered nervously. What had frightened Tiger Claw? "Blue Star?" Firepaw mewed again when she didn't answer. His heart was beating fast, making the blood roar in his ears. "It's all right, young warrior. Don't be afraid," Blue Star murmured. Her calm voice settled him a little. "I think Tiger Claw was surprised by the power of the moonstone. In the world above, Tiger Claw is a fearless and mighty warrior. But down here, where the spirits of StarClan speak, a cat needs a different kind of strength. What do you feel, Firepaw?" Firepaw sniffed the air deeply, forced his body to relax. "Only my curiosity," he admitted. "That's good," Blue Star replied. Firepaw looked back at the moonstone. His eyes had gotten used to its light, and he was no longer dazzled. Instead, it soothed him. With a twitch of his tail, he remembered his dream. This was the brilliant ball of light he had seen. Spellbound, Firepaw watched as Blue Star padded up to the stone and lay down beside it. She reached her head forward and touched the moonstone with her nose. Her blue eyes sparkled with its reflection for a moment before she closed them. Now she rested her head on her paws, her eyelids flickering, her paws twitching occasionally. Was she sleeping? Then Firepaw remembered Greypaw's words. New leaders have to sleep near the stone, and as they sleep, they have special dreams. He waited. The chill was not so intense in here, but still he found himself shivering. He had no idea how much time had passed. Suddenly, the rock stopped glowing. The cavern was plunged into darkness once more. Firepaw looked up to the opening in the roof of the cavern. The moon had passed out of sight. All that remained were tiny stars shimmering in blackness. Firepaw could just make out the pale shape of his leader lying beside the moonstone. He wanted to call out her name, but he did not dare break the silence. After more endless moments, she spoke to him. Firepaw, are you still there? Her voice sounded remote and agitated. Yes, Bluestar. Firepaw heard Bluestar's paw steps approaching. Hurry, she hissed. He felt her fur brush past him. We must return to camp. Firepaw raced after her, astonished by the speed with which she rushed through the blackness. He followed her scent blindly, up and up the stone tunnel, until she led him safely back to the outside world. Tigerclaw was waiting at the opening beside Greypaw and Ravenpaw as Bluestar and Firepaw climbed out of the cave. His expression was cold, and his fur was slightly ruffled, but he sat motionless and dignified. Tigerclaw. Bluestar greeted him, but did not mention the warrior cat's flight from the depths. Tigerclaw relaxed a little. What did you learn? We must return to camp immediately, Bluestar meowed briefly. Firepaw saw a look of desperation in his leader's eyes. Now the horror of his dream forced its way back into his memory. The fleeing cats, the great dark warriors, the ear-splitting wail of distress. Firepaw tried to ignore the cold fear that gripped his muscles. He followed Bluestar as she and the others raced down the dark slope away from Mother Mouth. Was his nightmare vision about to come true? Oh, we were not on chapter 14, we were on chapter 15. I am so sorry. Chapter 16. They headed back the way they came. The moon had disappeared behind a bank of clouds. It was dark, but at least the thunder path was quieter now. The only monster they heard was far off in the distance. The cats crossed the path together and pushed their way through the hedge on the other side. Firepaw could feel his muscles growing stiff with tiredness as they hurried on. Bluestar kept up with a swift pace, and with her nose thrust forward and her tail held high. Tigerclaw loped beside her. Firepaw followed a few paces behind with Greypaw, but Ravenpaw was flagging. Keep up, Ravenpaw! Tigerclaw growled over his shoulder. Ravenpaw flinched and bounded forward until he caught up with Firepaw and Greypaw. Are you okay? Firepaw asked. Yes, Ravenpaw panted, not meeting Firepaw's eyes. Just a bit tired. They scrambled down a deep ditch and up the other side. What did Tigerclaw say when he came out of the cave? Firepaw meowed, trying not to sound too curious. He wanted to check if we were still guarding the entrance, replied Greypaw. Why? Firepaw hesitated. Did you scent anything strange about him? He asked. Only the damp old cave, Greypaw meowed, looking surprised. He seemed a little edgy, ventured Ravenpaw. He wasn't the only one, Greypaw meowed, looking at the black cat. What do you mean? Asked Ravenpaw. Just that the fur on your neck stands up whenever you see him these days, whispered Greypaw. You nearly jumped out of your skin when he came out of the cave. He just surprised me, that's all, Ravenpaw protested. You have to admit, it was a bit creepy by Mother Mouth. I suppose so, agreed Greypaw. The cat slipped under a hedge into a cornfield that glowed silver in the moonlight and followed the ditch that ran around its edge. So, what was it like inside, Firepaw? Greypaw asked. Did you see the moonstone? Yes, I did. It was amazing. Firepaw felt his fur tingle at the memory. Greypaw shot him an admiring glance. So it's true. The rock really does shine underground. Firepaw didn't reply. He closed his eyes for a moment, savoring the image of the moonstone that dazzled in his mind. Then, pictures from his dream crowded his head. His eyes shot open. Bluestar was right. They had to get back to camp as quickly as they could. Ahead, Tigerclaw and Bluestar had leaped through the fence. Out of the cornfield, the apprentices followed, squeezing under the fence onto an earth track. It was the path that led past the two-legs nest and the dogs. Firepaw looked up and saw Bluestar and Tigerclaw trotting tirelessly together. silhouetted against a skyline tinged with red. The sun would be rising soon. "Look!" he called to Greypaw and Ravenpaw. An unfamiliar cat had jumped out in front of the two warriors. "It's Loner!" hissed Greypaw. The three apprentices hurried forward. The stranger was a stout, black and white Tom, shorter than the warriors, but well muscled. "This is Barley," Blue Star explained to the apprentices as they caught up. "He lives near this two-leg nest." "Hi," meowed the cat. "I haven't seen any of your clans for some moons. How are you, Blue Star?" "I'm well, thank you," replied Blue Star. "And you, Barley? How's the prey been running since we last passed this way?" "Not so bad," replied Barley, with an amiable gleam in his eye. "One good thing about two legs, you'll always find plenty of rats nearby." The black and white Tom went on. "You seem in more of a hurry than usual. Is everything all right?" Tiger Claw looked at Barley. A growl rumbled deep in his chest. Firepaw could sense that the warrior was suspicious of this loner's curiosity. "I don't like to be away from my clan too long," Blue Star answered smoothly. "As always, Blue Star, you are tied to your clan like a queen to her kits," observed Barley, not unkindly. "What is it you want, Barley?" asked Tiger Claw. Barley flashed him a reproachful look. "I just wanted to warn you that there are two dogs here now. You'd be safer going back into the cornfield instead of past the yard." "We know about the dogs. We saw them earlier," Tiger Claw began impatiently. "We are grateful to you for the warning," interrupted Blue Star. "Thank you, Barley. Until next time." Barley flicked his tail. "Have a safe journey," he meowed as he bounded away up the track. "Come," ordered Blue Star. She pushed her way through the long grass between the path and the fence that led back into the cornfield. The three apprentices followed, but Tiger Claw hesitated. "You trust the words of a loner?" he meowed. Blue Star stopped and turned to face him. "Would you rather face those dogs?" "They were tied up when we passed them earlier," Tiger Claw pointed out. "They may be untied now." "We're going this way," meowed Blue Star. She ducked under the fence into the field. Firepaw slipped after her, followed by Greypaw, Ravenpaw, and finally Tiger Claw. By now the sun had lifted its head above the horizon. The hedgerows sparkled with dew, promising another warm day. The cats padded along the edge of the ditch. Firepaw looked down into the deep gully, steep-sided and filled with nettles. Firepaw could smell prey scent. There was something familiar about the bitter odor, but it was one he hadn't smelled for a long time. An ear-splitting squeal made Firepaw whip around. Ravenpaw was struggling and clawing at the earth. Something had a hold of his leg and was dragging him down into the ditch. "Rats!" spat Tiger Claw. "Barley has sent us into a trap." Before they could react, all 5 cats were surrounded. Huge brown rats swarmed out from the ditch, squeaking shrilly. Firepaw could see their sharp front teeth, glinting in the dawn light. Suddenly, one leaped onto Firepaw's shoulder, and fiery pain shot through his shoulder as the rat sank its teeth into his flesh. Another grasped his leg between his powerful jaws. Firepaw flung himself down and writhed madly, trying to shake free. He knew the rats were not as strong as he was, but there were so many of them. Yowls, hisses, and spits told him that the others were also being attacked. Firepaw slashed fiercely with his long claws, slicing out at a rat that held onto his leg. It let go, but another gripped on his tail. Fast as lightning, powered by fear and rage, Firepaw fought and hacked at his attackers. Twisting his head around, he sank his teeth into the rat that had embedded itself into his shoulders. He felt the bones of its neck crunch in his mouth and his body go limp before it fell away into the dirt track. Firepaw gasped with pain as yet another rat leaped onto his back and sank his teeth in. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a flash of white fur, and for a moment he was confused. Then he felt the rat being dragged off him. Firepaw spun around to see Barley flinging the rodent into the ditch. Without hesitating, Barley glanced around and sprinted over to Blue Star. She was writhing on the path covered in rats, and in a flash, Barley had the spine of one between his teeth and was plucking it off her with practiced ease. He spat it onto the ground and grabbed another in his mouth as Blue Star thrashed beneath him. Firepaw rushed over to Greypaw, who was being attacked from both sides by two smaller rats. Firepaw lunged at the nearest one, giving it a bite that left it dead. Greypaw managed to turn and pin down the other with his claws. He grabbed it with his teeth and flung it into the ditch as hard as he could. It did not come back. "They're running away!" Tiger Claw yelled, and sure enough, the remaining rats were fleeing down the safety of the ditch. Firepaw could hear the scrabbling of small paws disappearing into the nettles. The bites in his shoulder and hind legs stung sharply. He looked carefully at his fur, wet and matted with blood, its sharp tang mingling with the stench of the rats. Firepaw looked around for Ravenpaw. Greypaw was standing at the edge of the nettles, mewing encouragement, as Ravenpaw pulled himself out of the ditch, muddy and stung. A young rat still hanging on to his tail. Firepaw bounded over and finished it off quickly, while Greypaw helped to pull Ravenpaw over the top of the ditch. Now Firepaw looked for Bluestar. He saw Barley first, standing at the top of the ditch, scanning the depths for more rats. Bluestar was lying on a path nearby. Alarmed, Firepaw dashed to his leader's side. The thick gray fur at the back of her neck was drenched with blood. "Bluestar?" he meowed. Bluestar did not reply. A furious yowl made Firepaw look up. Tiger Claw leaped on top of Barley and pinned him to the ground. "You sent us into a trap," he snarled. "I didn't know the rats were here," spat Barley, his paws scrabbling in the dust as he struggled to get up. "Why did you send us this way?" hissed Tiger Claw. "The dogs! The dogs were tied when we passed them earlier. The two-leg unties them at night. They guard his nest," Barley panted, wheezing under the weight of Tiger Claw's massive paws. "Tiger Claw, Bluestar is injured!" Firepaw burst out. Tiger Claw released Barley at once. Barley got up and shook the dust from his coat. The great warrior bounded over to Bluestar's side, sniffed her wounds. "Is there anything we could do?" Firepaw asked. "She's in the hands of StarClan now," meowed Tiger Claw solemnly, stepping back. Firepaw opened his eyes with shock. Did Tiger Claw mean Bluestar was dead? His fur pricked as he looked down at his leader. Is this what the spirits of the Moonstone had warned her about? We'll end it there. Okay, so my first apology is I got mixed up. We finished chapter 15 and we were doing 16, so okay. So a lot happened. Bluestar had to have had a very bad dream to have him rush back to the clan like that. And yes, she did lose a life. But I do hope you remember something I told you previously. Clan leaders have 9 lives. Well, which life do you think she lost? How many more do you think she might have? Do you think this might have been her last one? We don't know what life Bluestar is on right now. We don't. Do you think this is it? I hope you're having a wonderful day today. I'll read more tomorrow.